Welcome to this ode to Paint the Titan. This enormous mini will let us focus on creating transitions, non-metallic and skin effects. You might have noticed a change in format for the title. This is simply because there are no two versions for the video, a French and an English one. The language of the title will be the one of the video. It will take some time for the videos to become available, but we wanted you to be aware of this change. Let's get painting. As you can see, the mini is quite huge, and as usual, I start with necrotic flesh for the skin paint toes. It's an army paint, and it's available on the Happy Games Factory website. This paint is very thin, so it's very good because you don't have to dilute it that much from the pot. And this is very good for base coating because it's very fast. Then I come with a mix of neutral grey and deep sea blue to come in and base coat the metallic parts. I could have used a Luftwaffe grey from the Prince August range, but as I was on a fair, I forgot to take one with me. The camp was Lirai, a small Eden convention and tournament which was very enjoyable. It was located in the vicinity of Paris, in a beautiful castle. Congratulations to Matthew and all of the team from the association that organized it. It was very incredible. Like always, I try to have a somewhat thick paint that still goes on smoothly. Once the base coats are done, I'll come back lightly with a skin tone, and I mean lightly, on all the small nicks and crevices of the skin. Because this thing is some kind of a flesh golem, and so the transitory zone are treated with elf flesh for it to gain some visibility, in fact. As always, I'll come in with the same consistency and mix from the metal on the base. It might be slightly lighter. This is done to limit the workspace and have a better view of the entire mini. I'll then do the same with black on the circling of the base. Again, this is just for visibility, making the mini more readable. I'll then do the fabric he has around his hips. I'll use deep sea blue to distinguish it from the body. Well, not the body in itself, but the bodies he has tied around here and there. Will give a better dimension to the mini. I'll then come back with a highly thin red juice on the part of the flesh that received elf flesh. This is to create even more differentiation between the skin zones. Because we really want a flesh golem effect there. Once this is done, I come back with an airbrush to lay some light. So the highlight is just a basic skin tone. So it's just skin tone with a bit of white. It gives you a really nice highlight. I try to focus these light points where the mini will receive even more light. I don't hesitate to do the same on the metal to already have some intense light laid down and for the metal to stick out. So I do that on the mask and the gauntlet because it's just, yeah, just very nice. The airbrush is great too to lay light on the model, so I'll use it on the base as well just to give me a good idea. I continue this process, this time with a pure white. It's from the Pro Color range, which is a very easy range to use and clean with the airbrush. I come in on the metal and a bit on the skin, but not too much, or you will tarnish the effect. I come back with black now, still from Pro Color, but it's this time to put shadow on the Mini. So I focus on the base extremity and the metal. I avoid the skin. This piece is amazing to work with the airbrush because it's huge. Then comes the brush work. I start directly with ivory to put some more lights. Don't worry, the rest of the video will be better exposed because this is on the con and then we will switch to my studio. There I push my lights on the forearm, the shoulder and the muscles in general. This mini is good for that too. There's a lot of skin with very interesting colors you can do for them. You can really have a lot of fun with it. You can see that I do not hesitate to highlight with ivory to create a lot of contrast. Once I've finished the whole mini with the ivory step, be it on metals or the skin, I come back with black to put delimitation in with the different zones. That will enhance contrast. It's very important to let us have a very good readability of the mini and well contrasted zones. It's essential on your non-metallic part because contrast is the key there. I then come back with some white to create filters. The idea is that each successive layers makes the paint less transparent. So I take care of the edges because I want them to pop out even more, and it will create that non-metallic effect even more. It will really enhance it. And the gauntlet, for example, is a defining part of the mini, so it's very important to have a very impacting look. I then come back with a mix of light grey and blue I will use as a light filter to recreate convincing skin effect and create nice transition in between the different skin tones. Give some more life to the skin after crushing it with some whites. As I said, I never hesitate to come back with whites to really have the gauntlet shows there, for example. Never hesitate to come back again. Here, I'll take some dark sea blue from Prince August to create shadows on the skin. You need to be very careful with this paint because you don't want to have a thick blue stain on the skin. You need to very much dilute it because it's a very covering paint. So there I use it to line some zones because it will gain even more readability of the mini. It will also create some nice shadows too. There I come back with a brown. It's some sort of mahogany brown and I base all the fabric with it. So all the fabric above his loincloth and other strips of fabric around his hips. I also based the bone and skulls with that same mahogany brown. I don't hesitate to come back on the flesh zones with barb eye and flesh to have a better distinction on these zones. It's a bit darker flesh than the previous one I used. It would really make it stick out. I then come back to lay some more light on the dead body, on its face and on the fabrics. If you look closely, you'll see that I used red and pinkish tones on the skin. That is not linked to the character. It's just to have a better distinction. And the cadaver on the thing have a very much more natural skin tone. I once again come back on the strips to make them a bit pop out. The one, for example, on his knee. I come back with the mahogany brown and I use it as a filter to have some clearer demarcation on the bottom of the fabric and on the thigh as well. This helps create distinction on the mini's own skin and on the one he borrowed. Again, I come back with ivory to not change it up. It's just to enhance the lights again, to give it a bit more visibility. It will let us see the mini more clearly as well. As I was saying, those light points I'm putting, they do not create right away. You must do it a lot for it to be noticeable and have a convincing effect. There, you can see that in my workshop, you can see it clearly thanks to the lighting. There I come back with black to add contrast again on all the little details, just again to gain some readability of the mini. Never hesitate to come back with black or white filters, especially if you work with very thin ones like me. I also take care of the bottom of the foot that was not painted yet, but this is just a detail. I try to avoid showing you tedious steps because all you need is to see the gesture and repeat it. I come back with an army painter wash that I tap on my bronze surfaces to gain some easy volumes. It's a ready-made wash, I don't dilute it or anything. It's just a simple way of making it stick out. I then use a dark military green on the loincloth because even though it is not specified that the Titan is a part of the Green Order for Eden, it works very well with them. So I put some green on it just to fit him even more in. I forgot the color I used, but I think it's a bronze green or something like that. And I keep some very small zones of dark sea blue that was previously laid out. I come back with ivory on the bodies to add some light points, to gain some more contrast yet again, and again for the readability of the mini. I don't hesitate to add some to the pinkish skin also to just create even more contrast. I continue just and try to create some nice transitions. I come back with matte earth on the skulls and bones as well that are a bit scattered on the mini. It's just to put some light on the brown we laid out. And then the further I'll go, the more white I'll add to just highlight it. I come back with a mix of matte earth and black to crush the deepest recesses of the bones to create nice depth. I add some ivory to my brown, as I was saying, just to highlight the skulls and have them stand out. Gives them some nice lights. I come back and base the skull on the knee as well, as I forgot it earlier. And it will be easier to treat it the same way. I come back and darken my green with a thin down dark sea blue in the recesses, sorry. Because it's the successive coats that will create the nice transition and volume, so never hesitate to use some paint, even though it seems tedious. It's just the way it works. I use the sculpt of the cloth to guide me. I'll use this blue to put shadows on all the zones. I want to have a bit more somber. It needs to be very much diluted. I insist on that because otherwise it can ruin your previous work and you don't want that. I don't hesitate to come again with ivory. As I said, repetition is the key. For example, on the mask, it needs to stand out, so that's the key to it. Ivory will be used to just highlight almost everything to give it a lot of light. There I use it with a bit of matte earth because otherwise the contrast will be too big. There I do the same on the fabric and leather, just to create volume on those parts. I come back and add some shadows to the zones I feel are a bit too flat. For example, the skull on the knee. I also come with some black to create limitation and readability of the mini. You just trace the lines to create it. Even if you just have a small black line, it creates just a nice effect. This is very important, especially on detailed miniatures, so don't hesitate. No change here, I use some ivory again, just to touch ups here and there, and to add yet again more light. I pushed the red in the skin we've done earlier, because as everything got delimited with black, it muted down. You just don't see it clearly enough now. So don't hesitate to come in and tap with a diluted paint and an almost empty brush. This is to avoid mistakes. You don't want to ruin your work. So go in every cut of the mini, that on his face, on the torso, everywhere actually. Just it makes them stand out. I use some more black now for the delimitation, as I was saying earlier. It might look long and tedious, but this is a very important step. I use a highly diluted scaly green that will go on the tubes and on all the batteries on his back. It's highly diluted because you want it to go in the recesses. Don't hesitate to use even more after that to put even more paint in the recesses because you want it to be very visible. I come back with the same green, but on the skin this time. It is again highly diluted and will be very light on the shadows just to give them a bit of a tint. It's important to not put any on the light or it will destroy the effect. Speaking of light, here comes some more ivory. So on the edges, on the face mainly, but really anywhere that you feel needs some more, and just to the zones you feel need to be upped a notch. I put some dots in order to enhance the non-metallic, to create kind of a wow effect. You want it to be very impacting. I will then start highlighting my green with an olive green that will be stretched on all the green fabrics. It will just make it stand out. I never hesitate to push the paint in the same direction and to add some of these greens on the skin, but very lightly again. And it gives just more interest to the skin and it makes it a bit more lively. Or in this case, a more dead feel to the skin, even mutant. I stretch it towards the light always for the fabric to stand out even better. I'll use ivory again on the gauntlet because I feel it's one of the most important part of this mini. So I want it to be very visible. I come back with some sort of goblin green. It's from Games Workshop. I can't quite recall the name, but it's a very light green that I will use very much thin down, and I will push it in the recesses of the cable of the Titan. The idea is to create a power effect, so the paint is very watery to fall in the deepest recesses. Uh, the crevices needs to be lighter, and this is the way you give an energy effect. The energy will feel like it's flowing out. I come back with ivory plus some brown to paint on the bones and strips. It's just to put some more light again. It's very important to have some good intensity of the light on those parts. Otherwise, they will just be lackluster. I continue with some notes of blood red on certain zones, such as the mouth, the crevices of the skin again, and it's just to give some more impact on the mini when you see it. Plus now the piece got a bit more greenish, so the red will stick out even more. I continue to boost my green power zones with a very flashy light. You can also use a flashy yellow for even more intensity, but you just need to thin the paint and do what pleases you. As the paint is watery, it will always fall in the recesses and mute down, so don't hesitate to come back in with multiple coats. To finish the base, I'll use some thin down matte earth that I will tap and then spread on the base. Then I'll do the same with some scaly green to add more interest. But it's just to give some more interest to the base, because otherwise it will be very flat. Then I put some highlight on my grey with just some white, and just to create volume and have a nice base. Thank you for following me in this video. The Titan is now ready to join the sister of the Green Order on the battlefield. Here's the final result. Thank you all. I will soon launch my Patreon, so don't hesitate to follow me if you want to help. See you soon.